Well, hello everyone. On this video, we're going to talk about Brazilian game industry. So, let's start by doing some basic information about Brazil. Brazil has 6 trillion USD, and comparing by last year, 2020, 1.4 trillion, we had a growth of 4.6 compare. But compare about 2011, we have 2.6, so we kind of declined. And the population of Brazil is 216 million people by 2023. In Brazil, the official language is Brazilian Portuguese and the currency is reals. So, where is Brazil? How big it is? Brazil is the largest country in Latin America, percent of the Latin American market. So, in Latin America, Brazil is the largest market. So, basic forms of government. Brazil is a federal presidential constitutional republic. It means we are a democracy. But of course, we have our president, we also have our executive, as the name implies, is the people that manages the laws of the country. We have the legislative, that is composed by the National Congress, who makes the laws, and judicial, who makes compliance with the laws, responsible for judging cases and everything else. Wow, Brazil and access to technology. Brazil is a third world country, yes it is. But Brazilian informational technology market was valued at 46 billion and it is expected to grow 8.2% in 2022. And just a little regard here, the data is from 2022 because we didn't have the 2023 version yet. Brazil ranks 10th place in the IT world market and represents 40% of the Latin American market. So yes, it is a lot. 88.4 million. That's the numbers of video game players in Brazil. And let's finally start talking about gamers and video games. And well, what is the distribution of gamers based on gender in Brazil? Brazil's biggest market by far is smartphone, and 51.5% of the smartphone players are female. About consoles, we have 63% of composed by males, and computer is 58 composed by males. But let's talk about gamers' favorite platform. Smartphone, as I told you before, is the biggest one, 48.3%. Console comes behind by 20%, and computer comes after 15%. And of course, we have notebook, that is a laptop. We have tablet, we have portable consoles, and we have smart TV, and we have others. By others, we mean other obscure consoles and everything else. What is the size of the game industry in Brazil? Brazil, again, is the largest Latin American market for mobile gaming, both number of players and revenue. More than 88.4 players and over 1 billion in revenue expected in 2021. Brazil is a force to be reckoned in the game community. Mobile, again, is 48% of the market revenue in the region, so it is a big market. Brazilian companies, where are they? 57% are in Southwest, that's mostly Rio de Janeiro and São Paulo, 40% in Northeast, and 21% South. There's 1,009 Brazilian game dev companies in Brazil, most of them, again, localized in São Paulo and Rio. The main production of these are mobile games, 38%, followed by computers, 20%, and consoles by 17%. You realize that it's not 100%. Where is the rest? So, in Brazil, most of the companies, not most, but half of it, are third-party companies. So, what do we mean? So, if a company from outside Brazil want to hire you to do a third-party game or something, we hire Brazilian companies and we do it. Well, the biggest cities, São Paulo, is 400 companies are there, and also 22% of the Brazilian population. But anyways, in Rio, of course, 143 companies are located there. $2 billion. That's the amount of money on the industry in 2022. A growth of 169% of studios compared to 2021 and 12,000 game developers in Brazil. Gazelles let's talk about some companies. The biggest company in Brazil right now is Gazeus Games. Gazeus Games is the largest casual of social game devs in Brazil. They do mostly card games because, as I said before and 1,000 times before, card games are the biggest games in Brazil because of mobile money. Of course, you still have Candy Crush and everything else. But when you see someone playing a mobile game, they're usually playing Solitaire or, I don't know, Canasta and everything like this. But we also have, for example, Road Life. Road Life is one of the 10 largest mobile companies in the world. It was created in São Paulo, but the company has 5 other branches located at Palo Alto, Orange County, Dublin, and Buenos Aires. So they make casual games, yes, but not hyper casual games. As you can see, we have War Heroes and Tennis Clash an example, both of them are casual games, but not focuses, for example, in Candy Crush, that is a hyper casual. Aquarius. So Aquarius is basically the biggest company for actual games, console games, and everything else. Its focus is on memorable games in terms of visual and technical. It was the first ever company to receive government funds to help the industry in 2016, the first company to get outside investment from an outside company, as in the case Epic. Epic and Aquarius have agreement, so they are partners. Industry in Brazil. Wow, first thing, mobile is the biggest, but why? Because the accessibility. Brazil doesn't have a lot of money to invest. So mobiles are easy because they're cheap and smartphone. So which leaves a lot of room for growth because mobiles are necessary and mobiles are very easy compared to a computer that you need to search for the components and buy everything else. Mobile just buy once and you play. Okay, localization and culturalization. 5% of Brazilians speak English. That's nothing. So when you make a game in Brazil, you have to locate it into Brazilian Portuguese. The market there is huge. Of course, we can play in English. Most of Nintendo games, for example, are in English. That's something we can talk about later, or will talk about later. But when you translate your game into Brazilian Portuguese, the market that you get in is way bigger. Hey, but what is the difference between Portuguese and Portuguese? Why should I translate my game to Portuguese? Wow, Brazilian Portuguese is way more widely accepted and used than European Portuguese, and why is that? There is some difference. We can use an example as American English and British English. Okay, we can understand each other, yes, but mostly of the games are translated in American English. That's because of the huge market gap between those two. Not only that, but Brazilians also try references. So, when you're making a localization to Brazil, make a reference or another, they will like it. Wow, what's happening in Brazil and Nintendo? Let's talk about the Nintendo situation. Nintendo was not in Brazil for a long period of time. Officially speaking, they're out of Brazil because of taxes. But what actually happened in Brazil is the huge piracy market. Brazil has a huge gray market. So by 2013, they just left Brazil, and yes, they totally left. They only had the online store that was not actually supported in Brazil consoles, and yes. But friends again? During Brazilian Game Show in 2022, Nintendo announced that it was returning to Brazil. The arrival of selected physical Nintendo games for the Nintendo Switch symbolized commitment of options to your consumers. Yes, because before 2022, we could not buy a physical Nintendo Switch. We could not buy Nintendo Switch games. And for example, a Nintendo Switch in Brazil was around $750 because the only way you could buy it was by someone that could bring it from outside or resellers, and that was the only way you could do it. Physical games, the same thing, was triple the price, and now they're finally back. And okay, it didn't regularize things yet, and Nintendo still doesn't love us yet, but we're getting there slowly. Hey, Brazilian Game what? Brazilian Game Show is the biggest gaming convention in Brazil and biggest gaming convention in Latin America. And we can say that it's almost like a Gamescom of Brazil. Some of the guests are Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, Riot, EA, Konami, Capcom, Ubi, Warner, CD, and a lot of other big companies. Brazilian game show is really a huge thing for Latin America. And well, that's pretty much our video about the Brazilian game industry. I hope you liked it and see you around.